Do you mind sharing your name, the sport that you play, and the university that you currently attend?
Yeah, absolutely. How's everyone doing? My name is Nick Giesing. I'm currently going to be a senior at Florida College, where I'm a student athlete and I play soccer.
As a student athlete, specifically as a soccer player, how has that shaped you both personally as well as athletically?
Personally, I think just, each and every year I've found just a sense of growth and maturity that can just be with how to deal with maybe stress or anxiety, how to be more confident as a player, wanting to take on leadership roles, feeling comfortable in the environment I am, and just overcoming adversity. I'd say when you come in as a freshman, you're just all about, proving yourself. It's very you oriented, which is a good thing. You want to make a name for yourself in the program, but I felt each and every year I've kind of grown into them more, obviously helping for the good of the team, trying to do everything I can to make the program as best as possible. And then athletically, just how I've grown is just obviously I've got more confidence as a player. I've stepped into bigger roles, bigger shoes each and every year. I mean, I've been a 3 year starter, so I've always had good game time. But I feel each and every year I put myself in a position to where I can even improve more and get more exposure.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think both points there were great, especially too, just talking about the overall team in general, because I think sometimes as athletes, especially going from high school to college, sometimes we put focus on ourselves and kind of that almost selfishness. Hey, I want to be starting, I want to be in this type of role or this type of position. So I love that you mentioned that and bring that in. But it first and foremost too, as student athletes, we have that responsibility both on the academic side as well as the athletic side in order to perform not only in the classroom but on the field and manage both. For you, I guess, how have you been able to manage kind of the academic responsibilities but also the demands of being a soccer player?
I think just plain and simple, it just comes down to your planning when it comes time to, that busy part of the season. It's just planning out your weeks. And I do this, by just prioritizing some bigger assignments or the classes that I know are going to take a little bit extra work, try to prioritize that. And just, this is obviously the hardest part, but trying to just avoid procrastination, staying on top of things. And I think that what comes along with that to make it really good is just having healthy relationships with your teachers. One thing that I really appreciate at my school, it is a smaller school, so it's very easy to kind of build a good relationship with the teachers, and that's very important because I think up front, if you can just be honest and proactive, going to them saying, hey, I'm a student athlete, I'm gonna be busy, I might miss a couple classes, traveling on the road, this and that. But if you can just build that, that trust relationship that you want to put the work in, you want to be successful in the classroom, I think it goes a long way.
I love that you mentioned that because I think as student athletes, it's our responsibility to say, hey, if we want to excel in the classroom and we want the teacher to kind of be behind us, backing us in our success, we have to kind of put our best foot forward and show them that, we're actually going to try to be good students as well. And flipping the switch a little bit to, I guess, mental health awareness within sports, I know that over the past couple of years, more specifically on the professional side, but even now it's kind of, started to dwindle down into, the college side as well. We've seen a lot of stories about athletes, whether it's professional or collegiate, coming out and saying, hey, you know what, I've been struggling with performance anxiety, I struggle with depression, whatever it might be, and just talking a little bit about that and kind of, creating a little bit of awareness behind that in general. But for you, how much do you believe, mental health plays within your role as a soccer player? And how has it kind of shaped your athletic career at the college you're currently at?
I think as I progress, from just like I go from a freshman now to, going into my senior year, I think each and every year I found, the mental health aspect and the awareness of mental health to be arguably probably honestly the most important thing to pay note to. Because when I first came in, I didn't realize, how much actually goes into that life of a student athlete. You just think, oh, go play, you go to class, you go to your training, this and that. But there's so much that goes into it. I mean, especially when you get into that training environment, a bad training session can affect the rest of your day, or, a bad performance can affect the rest of your week, or if you're struggling in a class, that's going to obviously affect your mood. And so there's so many things that come into play that can affect your mental health. And so I think, just being aware of those things and just trying to, seek the help, don't be afraid to share those emotions. And, it's easy to put that smile on your face, that, like everything's all right. That's probably something that I do quite often, just kind of more of a positive person. But, being vulnerable and being open and being willing to, share your struggles with others, I think is vital.
And talking a little bit about challenges faced specifically during the college time, but even, high school to college as well. I know for myself, dealt with kind of injuries early on, and then, also had to deal with, transferring schools and navigating that journey and that route. But, for yourself, are there any specific challenges that you faced, and what did you specifically do to overcome those?
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it a little bit in just my introduction, and before we started the meeting, was that coming as a freshman, the program was kind of in a difficult spot. There had been a lot of big coaching switches, a lot of changes there. There were losing seasons, and so the team morale, it was kind of honestly a little bit of a toxic environment when I first entered that program as a freshman. I ended up having a decent year. I played a lot of games, got a lot of minutes, but just being able to kind of overcome that environment, to be in a struggling team and then not maybe make excuses for the environment I am, but said, put it on the flip and say, well, I'm in the position I am, be grateful for the position I am. While it may not be going as well, with the record in the games and how we're performing on the field, what can I do to try to make this environment better? And I think that was a big switch. And with that, I think I've kind of helped some other guys on the team take that mindset. And, this past year, like I said, we were a little bit better, still came up not the way we wanted to in terms of like trying to get postseason play, this and that. But we saw probably our best record. I think it was like maybe in 5 years. So it was a huge step in the right direction. So I think it was just overcoming that by not making excuses and just trying to make the environment the best that it could be.
I know you briefly kind of talked about support specifically when it came to, just mental health and opening up and being vulnerable to others. But specifically during your time in college, I mean, has there been any outlet that you've been able to tap into for support, whether it's, other teammates, family members, somebody on campus, a resource that you've been able to kind of use to, talk through some of those issues or maybe even, seek advice?
I think first and foremost, like my probably biggest support system is just my parents. I have a really good relationship with both my parents, and I appreciate them because they sacrifice a lot for me to be in the position I am. I'm from the Midwest, so moving down to Florida obviously is a big jump. All my older siblings, they stayed locally, and even my kind of interesting story, I was committed to go play at one school and then kind of backed out last minute, even as the season was approaching, then ended up winding up going the complete opposite direction and all the way down to Florida. So just for them to still be able to support me, even when it looked, my decision was kind of on where I was going to be was uncertain. They had full support and they just wanted what was best for me. So I appreciate that. And just to go further along with that, one thing that's really important for me, just as an individual, is my faith. Go to just a small Christian school. So that faith background has been very important. So I guess now that would just be honestly just my relationship with God. It's been very impactful for my support system, being able to just if times are tough or if things are struggling, to go to prayer and stuff like that and just ask God for help has been huge in my journey. And just along with that too, I've been blessed to have a lot of great coaches. There was a lot of, uncertainty, like I said, with the program, a lot of different coaches, but there's always been a couple that have stuck around that have been very impactful and, my growth as a player and as a person. So yeah.
My definition of success was way different from the time that I entered college up until the time that I graduated. At first, it was very, again, I don't want to say selfish, but it was very, hey, how can I be a starter, right? How can I contribute to the success of the team? How can I, do my best in order to transition to a 4-year school after going to that first JUCO? But by the time that I was done, it was like, hey, how can I be the best teammate possible? How can I, build relationships with a lot of these players that are going to last years after, we get done playing, all of that. So for you personally, how has the definition of success, specifically being that student athlete changed for you over your years in college?
What you touched on, it sounds exactly kind of how my mindset was coming in as a freshman. My main goals were just, okay, win as many games as possible, score as many goals as possible, assist as many goals as possible, all those things. And I still value those types of things tremendously. I'm a performance-based athlete, I want to produce for my team. Those are important things, especially in the position I am. And then I hate losing. I'm very competitive, but I think, however, success is ultimately what I kind of want as I, I'm transitioning into my last semester is just, wanting others to look at me in the lens of, someone who gave it his all for the program. He did everything he could for the team. Like you said, he was a good teammate. He helped others, and even more important as an individual to look back on my career because I'm more of like intrinsic motivation kind of guy. So just being able to look at myself and be proud of the career I've had, not in terms of, maybe stats or the numbers I did put up, but more importantly, the growth I've had, as a player and as a person. Because sometimes people, like you said, you think of success as just the ultimate destination or maybe the championship or the for the conference tournament, this and that. But I think the success is really the destination along the way. And can I say for myself, that each and every day, I try to become that 1% better, or I put the extra hours in, and then I can look back and I can be proud on that, and to know that while I was chasing the dream and wanting to achieve these things, that ultimately the dream was just being able to wake up every day and play the sport that I love with a great group of guys.
I know for sports, regardless of, if you play soccer, if you play basketball, if you play football, really any sport deals with pressure in their own circumstances and in their own regards. But how are you able to manage those pressure situations, specifically in soccer? And what advice would you give to current student athletes as well?
I mean, if I'm just being completely honest here too, like that's probably one thing that I'm still really working on as myself as an athlete. Not that, it's pressure from the outside that affects me, but it's more the pressure I put on myself. I'm probably my greatest critic, and I demand a lot of myself because, I know when I play, the best of my ability, I have a lot of potential and I can do good things for the team. So I'd probably say, however, how I try to handle that, I think for me, is just going back to the foundation and this kind of Simon Sinek. I read a book this semester called Start with Why, and that was a really impactful book. And I think you need to know your why. And, your why is kind of the reason you started, or what's your motive behind playing the sport, or why'd you get in the first place. And if you go back to those moments, I can think about, okay, right, when I was a kid, I just loved to play the game. It was my favorite thing to do. It was eat, sleep, breathe soccer. And as you know, as you get older, you kind of sometimes lose that why, as you get bogged down and day after day you're training, day after day you're in the gym. It's a short season, it's results demanded. You're playing one week in another city, then you're traveling 2 3 days. You got a game the next day. And, it can be a lot on you, and then you get in those tough situations to where it's almost not enjoyable in a sense, and you're kind of forgetting your why. In the sense that, not that I've always not loved the game, but there has been moments to where I'm so focused on just tunnel vision, what's ahead of me, and this and that I sometimes forget, going back to the why of why I even started to play the sport that I love. And it just comes down to because I loved it so much, and it means so much to me. And so, and just going out there then and transitioning to, go out and just play with a smile, enjoy it, and not putting too much pressure on yourself. But at the end of the day, it is obviously something, that's super competitive. It's not, in my mind, I don't view it just as a game, but, in a sense, obviously remember that it is a game, and just enjoy it, and never forget why you started in the first place.
Again, too, I know you briefly touched on that, but especially the book that you had went through and read. Outside of that, too, I mean, was there any advice that you give to your younger self, maybe specifically at the high school level, kind of transitioning into college, that hey, you wish that you had known, or something that any time period to whenever you were in college, that's like, hey, I wish I had known this one piece of advice that would have really helped me along my journey as a student athlete?
I think the main thing is just kind of going along with how the wording of the question was, just in terms of your journey, knowing that your journey is your own journey, no one else. And one thing that I've always maybe struggled with in the past is comparison. We live in a comparison culture, especially with the media, all this and that. People are always trying to flaunt, their lifestyle or their things, trying to maybe almost put on this facade. When we look in media, that's just the best of people's lives, and it's very easy to compare yourselves to other, especially when you maybe look at, this guy's maybe playing Division 1, or this guy's playing at a better school than me, or he's playing better than me, or even in your own starting 11, if you're not performing, or you're on the bench, you can compare yourself to the starting person. Instead of just realizing that, just focus on yourself in all seriousness and what you can do to better yourself as a player. Because I've known that if by just putting my head down and working hard, I look now at some people, or past players or teammates that I've compared myself to. It's funny how when you just put your head down and work, you look back, and the people that you were comparing yourself to are probably actually behind you, and now you're in front of them. And it's just funny how it works, but it's just the truth. And so just like I said, trusting in your own ability and yourself, and not really comparing yourself to others, I think is huge. And just focusing on your actions and trying to be the best individual you can be, I think is huge.
I really love asking this next question just because I know for us athletes, like favorite moments and memories are something that we're going to cherish 50 years down the line, right? And it's something that always brings a smile, always lights us up, always kind of, puts a little sparkle in our eye when we tell the story of being able to relive those memories and those moments. But for you, Nick, what specifically, whether it's, going back to high school, in college, what are some of those moments that you had that are some of your favorite and that you're going to cherish, for the next couple of years?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say probably my favorite memory for my college time so far was this one goal I scored in sophomore season. It was a huge game, a rival game, and we were down 1-0, and I just got the ball inside our own half, and I hear from behind me, my defenders are saying like, the goalie's off his line, like shoot it, the goalie would he came off his line, so I just picked up my head and just shot like a pretty far shot. It was just inside our own half and went in the back of the net. And then, it was a whole team celebration. It was a big crowd, so it was a good environment. And we ended up, they made it 2-1. So I had the tying goal to make it 1-1. Then they went 2-1. And then we ended up actually coming back in the second half and scoring the winning goal in like the last minute, and it was just huge celebrations after. And that was a pivotal moment because at that time, we started rough, lost the first couple of games, but then we picked it back up, and that win had us like on a 3-game win streak. And so it was really good for the team morale, and it was a home win. And like I said, it was a great crowd. And then this is kind of outside college, but when I mentioned in the start, I'm playing USL2 right now in the summer, just as like a pro developmental league. But before that, I was playing in a league back home in the Midwest called the Midwest Premier League, and I was playing on a team called DeKalb County United. And basically, with that team, it was kind of a unique experience because I was probably the youngest guy on the roster. This is like amateur football, so a lot of older guys. Some even have kids. It's kind of crazy, but I was like 18 years old, a young guy, and I was struggling to make the starting lineup, for quite some times. But I got to start this game, and my dad had driven up to come watch, and I scored in that game. And for me, that was just a huge moment because sometimes, that's when I knew like the sacrifices, the hard work, being frustrated, not being in the lineup, then you get your chance, you prove it, that's when it's all worth it, And I feel like honestly, as an athlete, it is kind of like a roller coaster. And honestly, there's more downs than honestly ups. And that's the funny part is that, but those highs are I think why when I go back to how I touched on, the knowing your why, you also play for those types of moments, those highs, those are what we push for. And like I said, there aren't many of them, so you have to cherish them when they come. But no, those two moments are big moments in my career, and I look forward to many more like that for sure.
But kind of in wrapping up and closing here, I know that I've already pestered you enough for, advice and, for some from different, I guess, different stories that you've mentioned before. But is there one final piece of wisdom or encouragement that you'd love to kind of leave with some of the student athletes listening in, especially those who are, currently navigating the collegiate athletic space?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was just kind of in researching for this. Like I found this one saying that, I kind of really liked, and it's that, yesterday is dead, tomorrow hasn't arrived yet. I just have one day today. And, I'm a big believer in that you're just guaranteed today. There's no guarantees for tomorrow. You have to make the most of what you're given, and each and every day truly is a gift from God, and it's a blessing, so you need to cherish it. And when you touch on that in the terms of a mindset of a student athlete, there won't always be road trips. There's not going to be always these big games or these competitions, the team meals, the team activities, the team bonding, all those types of things. So it's very hard, when you're a freshman, you're taking those things for granted in a way. Like you're just kind of maybe going through the motions, you're happy to be there. But these past 2 years is, I've moved into upperclassmen, it's even those big things off the field, those moments just with the guys, those types of when you're all together playing the sport that you love, you're all there for the reasons because you love the sport. And so cherishing those moments, take full advantage of them, and just try to build as many relationships as possible because those are going to last, for a lifetime. And just cherish those around you, yeah, and try to make a difference and for the better. Yeah.
First and foremost, Nick, I really appreciate your time today. I know that you talked a lot about your journey, everything ranging from the challenges that you faced and the hurdles that you went through as a student athlete, all the way up into, hey, here's a bunch of the successful, moments that I've had along my career as well, and been able to cherish those memories. I'm personally excited to see, all the stuff that you're going to be able to accomplish during your senior season. Again, too, that's going to be awesome. Another set of great memories for you to be able to capture and enjoy, post graduation, things along that line. But again, can't thank you enough. And for everybody listening and tuning in, again, I'm going to be posting Nick's social media handles down below. Again, go follow him, check him out, follow along his journey. He's doing great stuff within the collegiate athletic scene. And again, too, he's making his name well known within the soccer world as well. So again, guys, really do appreciate Nick joining us today. And again, we'll tune in with you guys next week, Friday.